Have you started planting your garden yet for next year? As I'm recording this right now, it's mid-January and there's not a whole lot going on in my garden, but there's a lot going on in planning for next year's garden. I've already shopped for my seed, ordered the seed, and have that in hand. I have my garden laid out, I have my planting schedule ready, and now I'm just getting ready to get my early seeds started indoors. But if you haven't done all this yet and it's getting into late winter or even early spring, don't panic. There's a saying that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is right now. So if you haven't started your garden planning yet, now is a great time to start. I'm going to walk you through some of the steps and considerations that I use when I'm getting ready for my next year's garden, and hopefully these will be helpful for you. And I have a giveaway for you at the end of this, so be sure to watch all the way through for that. Preparing your garden for one year really begins at the end of the last year. One thing I do as I'm pulling my crops out at the end of the year is I will top dress each of my beds with about 2 to 3 inches of compost. Basically a wheelbarrow load of compost for each 4x8 bed. That dressing of compost on top of the beds helps to enrich the soil over winter, helps to keep the soil a little warmer, which helps to feed and encourage the bacteria and organisms that are living in that soil. And as it continues to break down over the winter, it'll just continue to add nutrients to that soil going into the next season. If your soil is rich in compost, it also is going to replenish what has settled down over the last year. But if you are brand new to gardening and don't even have your beds yet, I'd encourage you, that is one thing to get started on as early as possible. My first year of gardening, I was building my beds in May and filling them with garden soil from a local landscape supply place. And it worked that first year, but it's certainly not ideal because by that time it was late to get a lot of my plants started for that year. So I can't say that first year was a very productive year, but it was a learning year. So I want you to learn from me and get started as early as possible in getting your beds ready. But like I said, if you didn't get an early start or can't get started that early, there's no time like the present. And there are still certain to be some crops that you can plant even if it's a little late in the season. While preparing your garden beds is obviously critical, what I really want to talk to you about is planning out your seeds, what seeds to choose, and how to plan when to start them. I'm going to start out showing you how I plan out my garden layout. Now there is a lot of software out there, much of which is subscription based, and a lot of people like those, and that's fine. I don't use any of those. I prefer to do my planning the old-fashioned way on paper. And let me show you what I do. I really like graph paper because I am analytical enough that I want to know specifically how much space things are going to take. But you could do this just on a notepad and just sketching out your beds. And what I'll do is I'll go and lay out what I plan to plant. And this plan is of my raised beds. I have 8 raised beds, 4x8 each, with a couple smaller beds in between, and then my arches that I have marked in here with these X's. As I'm planning out my raised beds, the first thing is, of everything I want to grow, I want to find out if I have enough space for all of it. And then I also want to plan out how I'm going to organize things in terms of what should be placed close to what else. Companion planting is an idea that was really popular a few years ago, and it's kind of lost its luster. And I think a lot of people got real into planting one thing next to another because it might improve the taste. My cat is wanting to say hello here. Waffles, go somewhere else. But there are certain principles to consider when you're putting plants together. There are certain plants that will compete with others or will even have tendencies to inhibit the growth of other plants around them. And so as I work with companion planting, what I'm considering are plants that may attract beneficial pollinators that will help other plants close to them, or plants that will help to confuse or inhibit pests that may prey on certain other plants. And I'll show you what I mean. As I'm planning out my planting, you might notice I have cabbage and dill close together. Beets and dill here. And dill, being a very fragrant herb as it is, is very good at confusing pests that find their targets based on smell. So cabbage and other brassica plants like Brussels sprouts and cauliflower can be targeted by the cabbage looper moths, and those moths find them by smell. Well, plants like dill or flowers like marigolds that have a strong smell can help to confuse those moths that are looking for the cabbage plants. At the same time, you also want to consider plants that will compete. Dill is in the same family as carrots and cilantro, and so it can compete with those for the same nutrients. And I've also heard that dill can also cause carrots to produce less. Don't know if that's true, but I don't want them competing with each other. And so I won't be putting dill next to my carrots and some other plants that are apparently not compatible with the dill. Now, I will look to several sources to learn as much as I can about actual benefits or negative effects that one plant can have on another. And one source that I found is pretty good is the Farmer's Almanac for listing good companion plants and why they may or may not be good matches for each other. So I lay this all out on my plan, find a space for everything, find what I can grow close together. This is my raised bed plan. I also have my plan for my in-ground bed. I have 600 square feet, and where I'll be planting, have space for squash to spread out. I also put my tomatoes over there. So I sketch everything out where it's going to go. Like I said, I like to be very detailed. I'll plan out about the spacing that I want to have for my plants. I'll make notes on here of what can be beneficial and what can be detrimental in terms of planting plants close together. So I get that all laid out. And in this case, you can see I have a lot of space to grow, space to put a lot of my seeds. It gives me a good plan for how I'm going to lay things out. But space is just one consideration for what I'm going to plant. When you are planning out crops that you want to put in your garden, especially if you're starting out new, I encourage you to focus on things that you're going to use. It can be a big waste of time, space, and money to grow things that nobody in your family eats. And I've been through this a few times. I found some plants that I've seen other gardeners grow and they love them. And so I put them in my garden. Maybe they grow great, take up space, nobody eats them. It's not a very good use of my time or that garden space. So I focus on plants that people in my family are going to eat. Now, you'll find there are some things that you just enjoy growing. I like growing tomatoes, but I'm about the only person in my family that eats tomatoes. I also encourage you not to overextend yourself. If you're starting out a new garden, it can be very easy to say, well, I want to grow all of these things, especially when you open up the seed catalog and start paging through and checking things off and end up with this whole big package full of seeds and not much space to put them. But I would encourage you to experiment with different varieties of things. As you look at different plants, no matter what it is, whether it's cabbages or tomatoes or beets, you're going to find all sorts of varieties that have all different benefits, different flavor characteristics, different growth characteristics, grow at different times of the year, and find those that work well for you. And talking about times of the year, it's also important to know your climate zone, because based on your climate zone, you're going to have a different growing period and different plants that are going to be more compatible with your area and your climate zone. So make sure you pay attention to that and get seeds that will work well in your area. And that kind of brings us to looking at the seed packets. When you look at the seed packets, you're going to find a lot of information that's going to help you to know how and when to plant these. And I'll give an example with this cabbage. So I want you to look at this, and on the packet it has a lot of information. It tells you when to start this indoors. So that's 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. And your last frost date is going to depend on your location. It's going to tie in with your climate zone. We are in zone 6B here where I live. Our last frost date is about mid-April. And so I work back from that to know when to sow these indoors. If you're going to direct sow these, the packet will tell you when to direct sow. And this says as soon as the ground is workable. And basically what that means is you can get the seeds in the ground early, and once the temperature warms up so that the seeds can germinate, then they'll go ahead and germinate and start growing. Your days to germination after you plant, assuming the soil temperature is right, will be about 7 to 14 days. So that tells you when you can expect to see the plant starting to grow after you plant the seed. Your germination temperature is, in this case, 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit or 7 to 18 degrees Celsius. And so that if your soil is at that temperature, you're at a good point for germination. Below that, the seeds are probably not going to germinate yet. Above that, you may get varying results, but that's a good temperature range for these seeds to germinate and start growing into a plant. And then you have your days till maturity. And in this case, we have 90 days. And based on your climate zone, you're going to have different growing periods between your last frost and your first frost. Our last frost is in April. Our first frost is typically in mid-October. And so between that time is generally our growing period. Now, there are some plants that grow well even into cold weather, so you need to account for that, but that will help to determine what plants you can grow in your area. Plant spacing is fairly self-explanatory, and then the plant size tells you about how big that's going to get. So this is all information to help you get these seeds planted properly, and you can go through each packet individually, go out to your garden or go out to your greenhouse or wherever you are planting these and look at each seed packet individually and try to get everything coordinated that way. But obviously it's going to be better if you go through the seed packets that you have and plan things out in one document. Now, I mentioned a lot of the planning guides, the software or online guides that will help you with that, but I'm going to show you how I do my planning. The way that I plan out my planting schedule is with this spreadsheet that I put together. I love spreadsheets and all that you can do with them. If you like spreadsheets too, you can put this together, or I have something for you if you pay attention until the end of this. So in this spreadsheet, I have the information from the seed packets. I have the plant, and in this case it's the general category: onions, peppers, cabbage, so on. I have the variety, and that lists down through the variety of plants. I have this all filled in with my plants for this year. I have a comment, and that's just any information that I think will be helpful. For example, on the tomato plants, I want to know, are those indeterminate or determinate? Because I'm going to be supporting and pruning those tomatoes differently, whether it's an indeterminate or a determinate variety. And then I start going to the information that is on the seed packet. I have, the weeks before last frost, and so that's directly off the packet. In this case, I have the cabbage I was dealing with, which is 6 to 8 weeks before last frost. And I'm going to fill this in as I go along to kind of show you how this works. Now, here I have this cabbage, which is a Mammoth Red Rock. And I've already filled this one in, but we'll make a duplicate entry for it here. I don't really have a comment on this one. It's fairly basic. And it says to start the seeds indoors. The earliest I can start it is 8 weeks. The latest I can start it is 6 weeks. And you can see that this automatically populated the dates based on my last frost date. And that is filled in. I have this little entry way up here at the top. Last frost date is April 12th. First frost date is October 22nd. I don't really use the first frost date in any calculations, but I have it filled in. And so as I fill in this weeks before last frost, it calculates those dates for me based on our last frost date. Now, transplanting, if it has anything on the seed packet to fill in on this, then I go ahead and populate that. If not, I just leave it empty. And but I could go ahead and populate this in. If I know, hey, I want to start this 8 weeks, but I expect to transplant it at a certain time, I can go ahead and fill it in based on my own information. And this is where it's good to keep notes year to year about when you do things one year, so you can carry that over to the next year, assuming it works well, or adjust it if it didn't. Our plant spacing, this doesn't go into any of the calculations in the spreadsheet, so I just put in here the plant spacing is 12 to 18 inches. That's mainly for documentation there. Our soil temperature, this soil temperature column here, if you notice my headings here, is if I'm going to direct sow, then I have the soil temperature populated. So that I'll know if a particular plant is dependent on a certain soil temperature. I'll know that the seeds aren't going to germinate until they get to that temperature, or they're not likely to. And I also know if that my soil is already at that temperature early in the season, so here we have the weeks before last frost, then I might be able to get those plants started depending on what the forecasts are. In this case, I don't plan to direct sow the cabbage. The packet tells me I could direct sow as soon as the ground is workable, but I'm not planning to do that, so I'm not going to fill anything in here. I have my germination temperature, and so I'll just fill that in so I know for my own reference. 45 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. My days to germinate is 7 to 14 days. And so that lets me know what to expect for these plants, when I can expect to see shoots. My days until maturity, 90 days. You notice when I filled that in, it did not populate dates for the early maturity and late maturity here. Those dates will be filled in when I actually start the seed. So I have these actual dates started, and so I can go back and populate these in. Gives me a record for the future of when I planted these, and once I plant these, that starts the clock for my days until maturity. So I've got that all populated in there now, but so I've got my cabbage. I want that to start on February 15th to March 1st. And so that kind of goes with these. Now, when I actually go out to do my planting, it would be great if I had everything in a list, like you see these at the top of the screen here, that are all in order. But now I've added an additional entry and it's not in order. So if I print this out, take it out, to start my seeds, I want to know on a given date, I want to know what do I need to start first and what comes up next and what those dates are. Well, I've added a sort in here. If we go to data, and if you're familiar with Excel, you know this. If not, we've got data, sort, and I have my sort criteria already populated in here. And so I just click OK. Oh. Okay. I want to click my data has headers, so it'll take out those top columns, because that's what was confusing it. And we'll click OK. And now we see our new entry, which duplicates an existing entry, has been sorted in here with the rest. And so it sorts it by the dates, and then by the plant, and then by the variety. It works its way down, and so it makes that a very useful list. Now this spreadsheet is pretty basic and not as much functionality as a lot of the online garden planning, but this is really all I need to prepare for my planting. And if this is useful for you, I'm going to put a link in the description where you can go to download this spreadsheet. You may see some little changes. Be prepared for that, because I'm always tweaking and trying to improve things. But overall, the functionality should be about the same. And if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you about that. So just trying to put this out here to help people, kind of a little free resource to help you get your garden started, and hopefully this will be useful for you. I hope this has been helpful, and if it has, go ahead and click the like button. If you want to see future videos like this, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss another video. And I certainly hope you have great luck in your garden this year. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.